Imagine suddenly inheriting a large sum of money or valuable assets. What's your first move? Do I owe tax on this gift? Should I pay off debt or should I invest? Well, stick around because in this video, we're going to walk you through some of the most common tax consequences, as well as some of the most common strategies on ways to make the most out of your loved one's gift. Let's dive in as we talk about some ways to retire wise. Hey everyone, my name is Tyler Jones. I'm one of the investment advisor representatives here at Independence Financial. And let's say that you've just received an inheritance. What now? You may be thinking, what do I do with all of this? Well, first, let's go over some of the most common types of inherited assets and what that means for your financial future. You could inherit real estate, cash, brokerage accounts, retirement accounts, annuities, and much, much more. I had to take a little bit of a breath there. Now, each type of asset has its own set of rules regarding taxes and how you should manage those taxes. So let's first talk about everyone's favorite subject, taxes. Some inheritances can come with tax implications, but the good news is that there are some ways to make it more tax efficient. One of the most tax efficient features you can take advantage of when you're inheriting a gift is something called the step up in basis. But how do you know if you qualify for a step up? We've put together a free, easy to use resource. It's basically a flowchart that helps you to determine whether or not you can get that step up in basis. The link is in the description below, and it is absolutely free. There's no email, no phone numbers, and you don't even need to leave your name. That's not required. Make sure you grab it after watching this overview. So let's start with something very, very common, inheriting a house. This is often the most significant asset that people inherit. Now, you may be wondering, do I have to pay taxes on my inherited house? Well, the good news is you generally won't have a tax bill. Inherited property is usually not subjected to income tax or capital gains tax. Here's the key. When you inherit a property, you receive something called a step up in basis. For example, let's say your parents bought a house at $30,000 many, many years ago. But when they passed, that house was now worth $300,000. Now, if you sell that house for $300,000, there's no taxable event because the cost basis steps up to the market value at the time of your parents' death. Now, it's important to note that the step up is the date of death. This means if your loved one passes away, for instance, on January 1st, but the estate needs to go through probate, and this is very common. It could take 2 or more years to finally sell the house. Well, in that scenario, you will most likely owe taxes on the gains from that 2-year period. Now, of course, there also could be estate taxes, depending upon the overall size of your parents' estate. This is where working with a CPA or an enrolled agent can be very helpful. Next up, let's talk about non-retirement accounts like brokerage accounts. If your parents bought stock in their company for, let's say, $10 per share, and now it's worth $80 per share, well, you do not have to pay any taxes on that $70 gain right away. The same step up in cost basis applies here. The key takeaway is if you sell the stocks for their current market value, no immediate taxes are due on the gains. But if you inherit a non-qualified annuity, watch out. Non-qualified annuities, they do not get a step up in basis. So if your parents bought an annuity for $50,000 and it's worth $80,000 when they pass away, you could owe taxes on that $30,000 gain. So be sure to consult with a professional about the most appropriate way to handle this. Like the house example, the step up occurs on the date of death, and any delays from the date of death to the time of the sale could result in taxable gains. Again, this is why working with a financial advisory team is key to helping you understand all available options that are unique to your situation. Now, what about retirement accounts? Well, inherited IRAs and 401ks are a bit trickier. Distributions from inherited IRAs, well, those are taxed as ordinary income, which can have a significant impact on your taxes. However, there is no 10% penalty if you're under 59 and a half years old. Just keep this in mind that this is one of the least efficient ways to inherit wealth. On the flip side, if you inherit a Roth IRA, there is a huge advantage. Distributions from a Roth IRA are generally tax-free, but here's the catch. The Roth must have been in existence for at least 5 years before you inherit it. Now, another common inheritance asset is life insurance. Typically, life insurance benefits are not taxable. Now, that's a huge win for beneficiaries. Another important distinction is whether you are inheriting from a spouse or a non-spouse. If you inherit from your spouse, the rules are a little bit more lenient. You can often roll over the assets into your own retirement accounts without triggering any taxes. But if you're inheriting from someone else, like a parent or a grandparent, the Secure Act 2.0 now requires non-spouse beneficiaries to empty their inherited accounts within 10 years. This means that instead of taking small required minimum distributions, also known as RMDs, you now have to spend down the entire account balance. That, of course, could trigger a significant tax burden. So just be prepared that that could be the case. So now that you've figured out your tax situation, what do you do with the inheritance itself? Well, here's where you can get really creative with your overall strategies. First, consider paying off any high interest debts that you may have. You don't want to carry those credit card balances or those loans when you've got this inheritance to work with and that interest is working against you. It's also important to consider your immediate cash flow needs. For example, do you have an emergency fund set aside? If not, now could be the perfect time to actually set aside money to build one from your inheritance. How about balancing some of your income with some of this inheritance? Should you invest these for future growth? Well, let's talk about a hypothetical scenario to help illustrate some of the strategies that you might use in your own unique situation. Let's say a 67-year-old widow inherits $900,000 from the sale of her parents' home. She's working part-time and she's also receiving Social Security, but she doesn't have any retirement savings. So after paying off some debt, $115,000 in total, that's her car, credit cards, and a little bit left on her mortgage, she's now left with $785,000. She decides to set aside $35,000 for emergencies, leaving her with about $750,000 to invest. Now, to replace her $1,500 per month of income, she puts $350,000 into an income annuity that will pay her $1,500 per month, and that increases every year with inflation. Now, this income also lasts for the rest of her life. The remaining $400,000 is split between a managed account, risky assets like stocks and ETFs, and less volatile fixed and fixed indexed annuities for future medical needs. Using the prudent investor rule, well, that age-based guideline says that she should put about $280,000 of this $400,000 into the fixed annuities, and the remaining $120,000 could be invested in ETFs and stocks for future potential growth. By taking advantage of this strategy, this allows her to pay off debt, it establishes an emergency fund, creates a stream of retirement income to replace her part-time job, and it also allocates funds for any future expenses. If you've made it this long to the video, congratulations, you finally made it, and I do hope that this information is super helpful for your retirement journey. Feel free to share with your family, friends, coworkers, and loved ones, and go ahead and subscribe while you're at it. If you have any questions whatsoever, you know exactly where to find us online. Until the next video, hope you're all doing well, and as always, God bless.